TikTok has been wildly successful for so many businesses and so many new businesses. It's a platform that was built on discovery, and it's been a huge launching pad for so many because of this magical algorithm. And I think part of this whole ban, one of the allowances to keeping and maintaining TikTok use in the United States is around releasing this algorithm so that we're aware of why this has worked so well. And the Chinese government is absolutely not, no way, no how. So they have to find a US-based company to own it.
Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic podcast.
The show where we talk about all things business and marketing, and definitely not the show where we're discussing the importance of the imperial and metric measurement systems.
So important that we don't talk about those things today. I'm Ralph Burns, the founder of Tier 11.
And I'm Lauren Petrullo, the founder of Mongoose Media.
So glad you are joining us today. I will say, Costin and I never, ever got this intro right. So I think we need to shake it up a little bit. But then back to your line.
We'd love for you to come hang out in our new Telegram group. Less new, current, but if you've been rebooted, potentially renew for you. Yeah. perpetualtraffic.com/Telegram.
We love that group. And so we're not going to be talking about the metric system here today, but we are going to be talking about TikTok here today. And I'd love to get a thread going over in the Telegram group. Now, is Telegram the ideal forum for us as a community? Lauren has very strong opinions on this. Me personally, I find it a little hard to follow everything, but the point is that we welcome everyone and we respond to everyone, and the community itself is actually perpetuating itself in a perpetual traffic kind of way, and helping everyone to get what they want. So if you do join the group, make sure that you introduce yourself and then give us your thing that you are great at, your number one superpower, what it is that you want, and also your biggest need. And we'll certainly do our best to help you inside that Telegram thread. We might reorganize it at some point in time. But for right now, there's over 170 people in there, Lauren. I know it's convoluted. There's a lot of convo going on. Yeah, I know. It messes with your sense of order, which is clearly the case. But for right now, we love the group. So definitely join up there. We're going to be talking some topical stuff here today. This is probably a week late because the news is really evolving really fast, obviously. And we're going to be talking about what President Joe Biden did, signed into law, which was approved by both the House and the Congress to, well, why don't you tell the audience exactly what happened with regard to TikTok, a platform that we are now absolutely loving inside Tier 11. I know you're doing the same thing over at Mongoose Media. So tell us what's going on. If you've been living under a rock for the last week in the digital marketing landscape, you might have missed this news. So
well, the news is that Biden is signing a potential TikTok ban for the entire U.S. at the federal level, where small business owners, marketers, influencers, and everyone in between is going to be potentially unable to use a thriving social media platform. And on the back of that, as of just the other day, TikTok came right back with their own lawsuit against the U.S. government. So there is a ban, a potential ban that would go into effect January 2025. There are options to get out of the ban right now, and opinions aside, has resulted in TikTok suing the United States government because of infringement to our First Amendment rights.
Yeah. So obviously Montana tried this earlier on this year. We also have a lot that TikTok is trying to do, sort of behind the scenes. We can even talk about that. And there's a couple of articles that we'll leave in the show notes over at perpetualtraffic.com. So give us sort of the high level view, the timeline of how all this happened. Obviously, this started way back in the Trump administration, has sort of moved through and gained a lot of momentum here. Obviously, our esteemed congressmen and congresswomen and senators and president probably are not users of TikTok, is my guess. So they might be slightly out of step with the times here. What's your sense as to why this is happening? What are the claims against TikTok and specifically ByteDance, specifically who owns TikTok? Like what's your sense? Like why is all this occurring, and sort of take us through the timeline of news as it progresses?
Sure. So, from timeline of news, as I said, it started in the Trump administration in 2020. He tried to ban the app as well. As you alluded to, Montana had passed a bill that would have banned it January this year, but November 2023, it was it was inconclusive from a judge. Other states like Illinois almost banned it, but nothing has stuck. So at the federal level, the assumption is all leaders are coming together because of the quote unquote threat to national security. And I say it quote unquote like agnostic to opinions and stuff, but that's what they're saying, that it's too much of a security risk for TikTok to be with US users. It's a potential distribution of propaganda, that this magical algorithm is too powerful, essentially. And then on the other side of it is that there is this magical algorithm that has allowed TikTok to be one of the stickiest social media platforms there are, which is why you and we and so many other advertising agencies, small business owners have seen such a great opportunity to it. But the timeline being Biden signing this potential TikTok ban into law, is on the heels of previous attempts to do it under the guise of national security, with TikTok responding in full, and as they did with the Montana ban as well, with claims that it is sinking the First Amendment rights. So it's a platform, TikTok's a platform where you can express your interests, likes, wants, and freedom of speech freely. But if it is not available in the United States, then it becomes its own ban. Mm-hmm. And I think as this progresses, and depends on when this airs, we'll obviously be staying really close to the news coverage, because as we've talked about, we have clients that are reacting on both ends of the spectrum, because this is going to radically disrupt social media advertising, considering how many users are actually on TikTok and how many brands continue to emerge.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing here is, I mean, setting the politics aside, is like this hurts the small business person yet again. And this is just a really
100%
an unfortunate circumstance where I think our elected officials are trying to protect U.S. national interests. I'd really love to know, like, if there, I know we can't get too political here because there's differing viewpoints on this, but like, what is there any evidence, aside from the fact that it is a Chinese-owned company, is there any evidence of spying, of national security infringement? Like, this is what I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. I mean, like, I get it theoretically, and I understand it to a certain degree. I can understand the paranoia to a certain degree, and I think Americans just in general might be, I think, a tad xenophobic about China. Is China an emerging, powerful nation that's a threat potentially to the U.S.? I mean, there's lots of different opinions on that. But my point is like, I have not seen, nor do we have any evidence that there is any spying, that there is any sort of draconian undercurrent here that's led to this pretty radical First Amendment departure and universally, like, throughout House, Congress, I mean, the Senate, executive branch, everyone has approved this. It's just so widespread. It's like you can't get Democrats and Republicans to agree on anything, and they agree on this. But it's like, what is at the heart of it? Like, do we know of anything that, or any sort of like past times where there is any evidence of spying or espionage?
I mean, the nefarious side of it, I personally have no accounts. I don't know anyone in my circle that has found anything, but also like fully transparent. I didn't read the terms of service and agreement when I downloaded the app. And I would venture that most of us didn't. And if you haven't watched the Jexy film from 2019, like, oh, absolutely watch it. But like, it's just a component. Like, we know that we are using another app so that it does comes with own terms of service. Same as all of our websites need to have a terms of service and privacy policy and all that stuff. So I haven't personally read it. I haven't heard or been aware of any of those infringing security risks. It could be very speculative. China 100% is in an emerging economic powerhouse. Granted, disruptions to assembly lines and, change in, the literal number of humans and all of the economics aside, there absolutely may be some xenophobic elements to it. But at the end of the day, like, going to it, it's a conversation to jump on. It is a presidential year. It is a subject everyone is quite familiar with it, just the pure influence of how big TikTok is in the United States. So with it being a political year and being an easy PR grab, it's almost like how, if you put AI in any headline, it's going to trend. It almost feels like attacking social media giants in general is done as a way for potential PR clout. For various parties involved, and it's a way to hijack a conversation to focus on a specific villain versus being vulnerable and open to being the one that's villainized. Because, like, I don't think most of the individuals discussing this law have or use the app. I don't think they're attuned to the impact this will have on small business owners, including marketers. TikTok has been wildly successful for so many businesses and so many new businesses that have started it's a platform that was like built on discovery, and it's been a huge launching pad for so many because of this magical algorithm. And I think a lot of this is built on joining a conversation, potentially with a pinch of xenophobia, but also there is a very competitive foreign entity that has built one of the stickiest algorithms available, and the US wants in. Like, part of this whole ban, one of the allowances to keeping and maintaining the US or TikTok use in the United States is around releasing this algorithm so that we're aware of why this has worked so well. And the Chinese government is like, absolutely not, no way, no how. So they have to find a US based company to own it. They've done all this investment of like security. And like, another part of this, which we could go into a little bit, would just be like what TikTok has done with Project Texas, which I think is a really important part of the conversation that's being buried.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit, because this is a proactive project that I don't think a whole lot of folks even understand or have even heard about it. What do you know about it?
$2 billion has been invested into it. Yeah. $2 billion with a B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I know and understand about it is, like I said, it's a proactive measure where they're investing in like US based activities happening on separate servers to compare to global customers, that they have, invested very heavily on security protocols to protect US data behavior. And they have been transparent, honestly, in my opinion, way greater than most other big firms have been, where they have been joining conversations, making content available, sharing this stuff with politicians and leaders in the industry in a way that they didn't have to, but were doing so in a proactive way, which you could argue is reactive to how they were seeing legislation go and all that stuff. But it's still a $2 billion investment into the US security of that app, which goes to the greater conversation of like, will it or won't it stay? There's a lot of money on the table because that $2 billion went somewhere, and that was jobs. And a lot of that like is physically in the United States because of previous demands on TikTok, such as server location and employees being invested where. So it's not just going to affect small business owners and future small business owners that are going to emerge from the platform, but it's a lot of jobs that are going to be impacted if this ban follows through.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention the small businesses that, and, you know, tens of, well, millions, I would say,
Yeah.
influencers who have now leveraged the platform to launch their own businesses, and also, you know, small local businesses. Like I know, you
Hmm.
know, for example, there's a local pizza shop that they whenever I'm going to pick up our pizza, they say like our number one source of revenue is people on TikTok. It's just like
Mm.
TikToks that they create every single day, and it's like all organic. Obviously, the algorithm is tremendous. Like I think of those types of people. Like, is that going to be an out of business, put them out of business type of risk here? That's debatable. But the point is like this is going to be hurting more than just you know, the American people just in general because of the First Amendment rights, but like
Mm.
the small guy, the little guy, like the one that you
Yeah.
know, it, like this is such an easy to use, and it is an amazing algorithm. Like the algorithm is
Mm.
better, and I also wonder, sort of, because uh, if you look at Meta, Google, this is like TikTok is the leader in all the new platforms. I mean, we wouldn't have shorts, we wouldn't have reels, we wouldn't have
Right.
all the innovations. They're basically pulling from this other platform where they test, use. Obviously, they, you know, the algorithm is super you know, sophisticated and works extremely well. The reason why it's one of the stickiest platforms that there is out there, and dare I say addictive, because it's not. The point is it is most definitely one that you. And this is the reason why I don't go on it all that often. It's like you go on it and all of a sudden you realize like 45 minutes later, you're like, holy crap, where did the last 45 minutes go? And it's the only platform that
Fair.
I've ever experienced that has that type of effect. So like stickiness, it understands exactly what it is that you like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a next level from anything that Meta's ever created and Google has created. And I think that's one of the things that the US government probably wants to understand, or at least have that technology, that IP from some of the
Sure.
articles that we've read,
Yeah.
exposed and actually shown and shared, which just that
100%.
unto itself is just like, that just seems wrong, you know? So,
Well, everyone wants their piece of the pie. I feel that what's missing from the conversation, besides like TikTok being a villain and potential political play, are the small business voices. Because will that break it to that pizza place? Probably no. But the ease of use for a small business owner, to have a TikTok shop set up where they can allow influencers to become sales agents and make money through an affiliate commission. There's no other platform that's doing that the same way. And it's like those voices being heard. Of course I understand why they want to jump into it and get a piece of the pie, but like if this happens, it's going to be really frustrating. And like going back to like why TikTok is leading so much better, they also are starting at a different stage.
mm,
Like we were talking earlier about how like TikTok is so powerful at discovery. You get into this like doom scrolling, or vortex of just like, whoa, what happened to my day? Because I just spent 45 minutes and I blinked being on TikTok. Uh, the platform was set up first and foremost as a discovery platform, which encourages the distribution of small businesses to compete against the larger giants. Like it's an inequitable distribution on the other platforms. Like Adam Mosseri of Instagram literally has come out with two big reels of how they're drastically changing their platform to favor smaller users in a way that TikTok has always done from the start. So I think a lot of their success is they're not carrying decades of data of doing things in a different way. And they led with discovery,
mhm.
which has allowed that continuation of discovering more. And we always love learning. We love finding out something new, but then we don't like homework. So it's like, we love to learn. Don't give me homework. And the other platforms have had homework like elements where you have to like comment and follow and responsive and do all these other things to make that discovery piece stickier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the getting people to understand what Project Texas is all about, I think, is a huge part to this, which is being completely
Mm.
sidelined. The question is whether or not, you know, anyone who reads it, we'll leave a link to that in their U.S. data security brief that they actually produced months back. I forget exactly when Project Texas was rolled out.
It's like
but
100 pages or something like that brief.
It's pretty crazy, but there is a pretty good breakdown, just sort of on a bullet by bullet basis. The question is whether or not the reader, or in this case, our legislators, our elected officials, actually believe it. And there is something deeper here. I always sort of feel like there's something behind the news that we probably don't know about. And this is not necessarily a conspiracy theory, but there is something, like there is a nefarious element here on the US side that I'm not quite sure what it is, like to put my finger on it. Is it, the IP to be able to, is it, private lobbyists from the Google and the Meta side, working their legislators in order to, take down a potential rival? Like there's all these other sorts
interesting.
Like why wouldn't they? Like we haven't heard anything about that. There's a reason why, but this unilateral, both sides of the aisle, a proponency of this ban it's staggering to me. There's something more to this story that's not being divulged.
Fair. And to go down like our favorite previous co-host Qasim's conspiracy kind of component is like, like what if it was this, statecraft kind of approach to it, where there's a lot more happening behind the scenes. We know how much, I'll use the term villain again, Mark Zuckerberg was made to be a villain. He was brought in front of Congress and, all the things that he had to do. They were unsuccessful. And like from a PR standpoint, it was a little embarrassing because you're always going to have politicians that are going to be behind technology. Right. Facts. But maybe there's this, hey, let's give it one more shot. Let's create, the nemesis to both parties, and putting a foreign entity on it, especially from China, maybe gives it another try. Like it's like round 2, fight, and see if that, like, how can we unite all together? Because maybe there's even deeper conversations happening that we're not going to pay attention to, because a TikTok ban that is affecting whatever 90, 100 million users in the United States. I'm sure it's we should get that actionable. However many like daily active users, this is a conversation they can all get behind, right. Which, I think it's maybe noise against something we don't want to know about.
Well, last count, I mean, it's 170 million users in the US alone. That's daily active users, but nearly 2 billion worldwide. So, I mean, there's obviously, this is still relatively speaking, from a, from a social platform standpoint, still an emerging platform, but 170 million in the US is certainly a massive, massive number. And obviously it skews younger to a certain degree. It's certainly not senators and congressmen and congresswomen. The point is like, there's something more to this. There's a private interest that's being played here, sort of in the underbelly, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. That's just my pet theory at this point in time. Question is what does ByteDance do here? And I think the big question is, and the CEO has come out publicly stating like, we can't have this operated by a U.S. company. This would just, be tragic for our business. And they know this because you would have to train, thousands of programmers and dev people in how to actually, in the inner workings of how the algorithm really works, how the platform really works, which is an impossible task to do inside of 9 months.
Or a year with the extension, 100%. Like it's actually, as we as marketers, like, hey, I want you to launch a profitable campaign for a brand that's never sold a single product, and I want to be doing $1 million a day within 7 days.
Yeah, like it's an impossible task. So in effect, like, the question is what does the lawsuit delay this? It's only just the ink is still wet on that countersuit. So could that delay it even longer?
It'll depend also who becomes the new legislation power, because there's veto opportunities. Like, again, it's happening in a political year.
Yeah. And
what comes about in the US election is going to have a huge effect on this as well. But I think like part of this too is this going to set precedents for other countries to do bans? we talked about earlier how Pakistan has banned X, formerly known as Twitter,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this stuff that's coming. Like there's these social media giants that are potentially, bigger than government systems. And it's a threatening side of this conversation. And if the US is able to ban one particular company, like what does that avalanche domino effect look like? And then who's to say that other countries aren't going to follow suit and make it really hard for businesses to operate? So we're talking about a mega corporation,
Right.
but think of the impact it could have for the small business owner. If you want to expand beyond your current political borders. And then you're seeing that there's a trend that specific countries can target you and say, no, it's going to make it harder for your business to thrive and expand the way you'd like it to.
And it's a really good point. Like we take it for granted that there's Meta, there's Google, there's Snapchat, there's LinkedIn. Like TikTok is, yes, one of those social networks, but this sets a dangerous precedent for any and all of these other platforms. Where does it begin? Where does it end? And like, can it actually be stopped here in its tracks? Which is like the big question. But that's a serious threat. Imagine life or the world without Meta or Google. Like, that's really what we're talking about. Like, Google is the internet. Meta is like the largest social network on the planet. With all its different apps and so forth. I mean, where does this stop? And that's the scariest part of this whole thing is like government intervention. I mean, I'm all for the government obviously protecting the people, probably to a greater degree than I think most people. But in this particular case, I mean, it's frightening that old men and women, in positions of power are making these sorts of decisions with absolutely no factual evidence that any wrongdoing has occurred.
I imagine that there has to be like some research because
There's got to be
they
something.
have teams of younger staff
Right.
that are doing there's pieces to that, right? But I think like the part that gets me, so born and raised in the US, very grateful for what that has afforded me.
Sure.
I understand the free commerce that was established here. Like that, to me, that's like where the scariest precedent is, because where we are as a country compared to many other countries and how we're viewed. I mean, obviously that changes from all these different things for sure, but we are viewed as the American dream. And there's still that opportunity of like the land of opportunity. It's like synonymous with the United States. But if that becomes the land of allowed or conditional opportunity, I think it's going to be a bad PR campaign as we in the United States continue to receive such an abundance of really talented individuals that move or want to start their companies in the United States. Like, I think there's going to be, again, the domino effect can be challenging. And then just as a small business owner and someone who works with a lot of small business owners personally, it's kind of like, can we have like an honest conversation? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if nefarious things have happened, and maybe they have facts that we're not privy to. But for the most part, I am unfamiliar with it. So
yeah,
it seems like a mountain from a molehill on progressing positive conversations. Yeah. To protecting the U.S. consumer all day, every day. But there is an accountability. Like if you didn't read it, I didn't read the terms and service, like read it. Like if you want to know more, you can have options to opt out. But
we'll leave links in the show notes for anyone, and we'll give like a bonus. We'll give we'll give away a prize inside our Telegram thread for anyone who actually reads the entire terms of service of TikTok and finds anything that's nefarious or dangerous. All right, so there's an incentive to join the group right there. perpetualtraffic.com/Telegram. Who's going to do it? Or, better yet, we should probably just take it, throw it into AI, and then summarize it. But don't do that. We need your actually reading it and figuring out, all right, well, there's a loophole there. There's a loophole here. We probably should have done that and taken 17 hours to read through it, being me and you. But unfortunately, we didn't have that kind of time. So this is obviously something.
There's also the 67-page document for what TikTok is saying is a First Amendment violation. I was like, these are long lawyer pieces.
Long lawyer pieces. Lots of lawyering up right now. Oh my God. If you want to go to sleep fast, read a court summons I found. Yeah. It's the best It's the best remedy for insomnia. So this is not something that we're going to just mention once and then not mention again. We'll certainly give you updates and our thoughts on it as events progress here. But bottom line here, this is a bad look, I think, for the U.S. government. Completely opposed to it. And I think you feel the same way. So join us over on Telegram if you disagree. And maybe you got something that we don't have. That's fine. This is a two-way conversation for sure. So Lauren Petrullo, by the way, I don't think we really formally announced this. We probably should have announced it in the intro. It's like, this is your new show. You're the new co-host of Perpetual Traffic. So I know we mentioned it sort of in passing, with Qasim and I, but like, this is your first show and it's politically charged. So I can feel like a different wave of intellect. Not that Qasim wasn't bringing it every single week, but like this is a good change for us at Perpetual Traffic, and might as well start with like a political issue to kick things off. So welcome as the new co-host formally, and super excited to have you on the show here, and we're going to do some great things together. So
I'm excited. Thank you. Yeah, they're really tall shoes to fill.
Tall shoes, big size 13 shoes. Remember, he was filling the shoes for Molly Pittman though too. So it's like it all progresses. But where can people find you? By the way, I know you've been on the show many times as a guest, but now as a co-host. What is the means in which people can connect with one Ms. Lauren Petrullo?
Well, I would say TikTok, but that depends.
In 9 months, more than 9 months from now.
That's a baby.
Yeah, right.
Like it's giving birth. That's a gestation process for a human being.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm Lauren E. Petrullo on the socials, but more importantly, you can find me on Telegram. So if you're there,
there you go.
Hi. Come say hi and debate this. Like I would love to hear someone that is like pro ban to share that's in marketing that can tell me why they see this as like a benefit, and you can't be representing another competitor because it's going to make their business much better, obviously. But please, if bring it. I would love to hear diverse opinions, because in marketing and generally speaking, we see the disadvantages as they're coming to small business owners.
Yeah.
And so come find me on Telegram.
Absolutely. Yeah. Connect with us on Telegram. It'll be interesting when we have our next partner manager meeting with Meta, what their take is on this. We're supposed to have one today, but she's out on vacation. But and when I meet with some of the higher ups at Meta, I bet you they're all opposed to it, is my guess. Because
I think so.
Yeah, my sense is that would be the case. But it'd be very interesting. Maybe we'll even have one of them on the show here so they can comment on it as well. So connect with us over on Telegram, of course. Subscribe and leave a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. So easy. Just on Spotify, click the 5-star, 4, I guess, if you're not feeling that generous. Definitely, no 3s or 2s. Wherever you're listening to podcasts, go back and listen to previous episodes. And of course, you can see this over on our YouTube channel, perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. And I don't need to tell you that all the links and show notes are over at perpetualtraffic.com, but we are going to leave a lot of links in there, especially the articles that we're referencing here, as well as terms of service of TikTok. So whoever wants to read through that would love to get any sort of insights into nefarious activities that TikTok may or may not have given you, given the okay for you to approve of through their terms of service. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. So anyway, on behalf of my awesome co-host, Lauren Petrullo.
Ciao. I had to figure out what to say. I was like, the new post. I was like, oh my gosh, no pressure here.
That's right. Nothing.
New co-host.
Co-host. Until next show. See ya.